In a world accelerating faster than ever, true leaders rise, not by chance, but by choice. Welcome to the Unshakable Voice, where leaders are forged, performers are built, and mindsets are turned from fragile to unshakable. Be ready to unlock high-performance habits and be ready to master the art of complexity. Please welcome the leadership strategist, high-performance coach, a leader in innovation, and your host for the show, Dr. Nigel Smart.
Welcome to the Unshakable Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nigel Smart, and today we're going to be discussing change as a leader at a time of incredible, rapidly evolving, exponential change in the global marketplace. The addition today is we're going to look at adversity as a tool to drive that change and also to accumulate abundance. And today I've got an incredible incredible guest for you. My host today is Nicky Billou from Ontario, hails from Toronto, originally from Iran. A great story, great personal immigrant story that he could share with you. But today we're gonna talk about how he has practiced adversity and coaches people in how to use adversity. Nicky, welcome to the Unshakable Podcast.
Nigel, man, thanks for having me here. It's an honor to be here. Looking forward to a great conversation.
So am I. Let me introduce the audience to you a little bit. You're a coach, you're a consultant, you're a public speaker, I know well. You help entrepreneurs build their own businesses. Wow, that's amazing. You're a thought leader. You have your own podcast, the Thought Leader Revolution podcast. You have the eCircle Academy, which you're using to build other entrepreneurs up and show them the way that you have progressed your business in your path, and then use that to build out other guys. You also have a group which is close to my heart, which is the Sovereign Man. And let's talk about that for a second. That is a group. It's very timely in my mind. It's a group that's intending to build men up at a time when men are much maligned. Apparently, if you listen to the popular press, we're all misogynist, racist, mansplaining, overbearers. We all know that that's not the case. You're a great proponent, in my mind, of helping guys recognize and regain their self-respect. Their self-respect globally, certainly here in North America, but also in Europe. I was recently, as you know, in Switzerland and also the UK. And I think the situation there is at least as bad as it is here in North America. So I commend you for that. I think that's just, you've a very rich background, tremendous wisdom. So I can't wait for the audience to hear what you've got to say. And let's kick that off. So we know life is full of challenges. It can either crush you or it can raise you up. It can bring you to an amazing place. What do you think determines in an individual, in a man, or in anybody, but certainly in men, what do you think determines that destiny, that path we take, whether it's this way or whether it's that way? Share me your thoughts.
That's a fantastic question, and I'll answer. But let me share a little bit about my backstory of how I got to be in the work of men, because it's a very, very powerful backstory. So back in 2009, my then wife, seemingly out of the blue, decided she didn't want to be married to me anymore. Now, maybe I should have seen it coming, Nigel, right? But I didn't. And I spiraled downward. I was kicked out of the house. I was not allowed to see my two sons, who were quite young then, 1 and 3. And I blamed her, but secretly I hated and blamed myself. And for a while, I didn't even know if being alive made sense. Not that I wanted to kill myself, but I'm just like, life sucks. This is awful. This is horrible. And then a woman that I knew, who was one of the few people who did not just flee my side, that were in my friend group and acquaintance group, said to me, Nicky, there's a man I know who runs a men's group. I think you should go there. I think it'll help you.
Mhm.
And Nigel, I was grasping for a lifeline. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, I'm in. And he was a Welsh dude. He was from Wales and living here in Canada. And his last name was Williams, good old Welsh name, Owen Williams. And he'd written a book
another good
called,
one.
yeah, The Relationship Revolution. And if you've never seen it, it's a great book. I recommend it. Good to pick it up. Teaches you a lot of stuff. But I went to see him. I did some one-on-one work with him, but I joined his men's group. And I was in his men's group for 2 years pretty much. And it was an investment, right? Every meeting was $75. And you had to commit to a year's worth of meetings at a time and pay for them in quarterly installments.
Right.
And I was there, and Nigel, I was like being hammered. Like, at least that's what it felt like to me. It's like guys are telling me all the crap I'm doing wrong. So I felt already bad about myself inside, starting to feel worse, and I would lash out. But slowly, I started to see that these men were not trying to make me feel bad. These men were actually trying to make me be honest with myself, and they were trying to make me elevate myself. And when I realized that, everything shifted. Over a period of several years, I started to see that this divorce wasn't my wife's fault and it wasn't my fault, but I was responsible for it coming into being. And I started to do a lot of work helping other men. There's a program called Men's Weekend. And at the time, it was run by a fellow named Justin Sterling, Sterling Men's Weekend. And he passed away in March of this year. And I started sending a lot of men to this work because a lot of the men I joined another men's group, and a lot of the men that were in that men's group were part of the Justin Sterling world. So over time, I've sent since 2012, I would say close to 80 men to do this weekend. And it's been incredible. First of all, a lot of these men were in relationship or life distress. And there were many relationships that were healed, didn't end up going to divorce. There were others that weren't healed, but at least the man got his self-respect back. And then men that were having trouble making money started to make money. People who were broke. There were dudes who were like on welfare, Nigel, and then they became entrepreneurs making six figures and mid six-figure incomes. There were dudes who were bad with women who all of a sudden are attracting any wonderful woman they want to date. There were dudes whose relationships were their relationships became flourishing. And I started to see that what's missing out there is men with other men, masculine only spaces, masculine only conversations is what's going to heal men, is what's going to strengthen men, and is what's going to allow them to live life as the man they've always wanted to be, to paraphrase and quote the great Justin Sterling.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. To send so many people, it really actually sort of quantifies the magnitude of it's just like a silent virus that's going around. Elon Musk talks about the mind virus because of the things that have been going around the last 5, 6, probably the last 10 years. Yes. And it certainly has affected the way men are of let's say, my generation and on down, and I'm a boomer. I think with the isolationism that we felt during COVID-19, I think that exacerbated the situation. And I think when I think about my two sons, who were, my youngest is 17 in a few weeks. He's a twin with his sister. She was damaged as well because of what went on. But my other son, who is his brother, he's 24 soon. They got isolated. They got isolated at school, and I think it's left scars that probably we won't see fully brought out in them, maybe for another 20 years. It may be that it's going to affect their lives and their attitudes towards relationships and marriage and having children. I know that that's a great debate right now, because in the West, I think the average in Western countries in terms of birth rate is like 1.4, and 2.1 is sustainability. So we're not just an aging population, but we're trending towards extinction.
We are.
I think in Japan it's even worse. I think it's 1.2 in Japan. And then, Japan is very much a closed society compared to the West. I mean, to actually become an immigrant into Japan is almost impossible. I do have one of my closest friends who died a few years ago. His brother, who was an English teacher, he went to Japan and married a Japanese woman, and he's settled there now. But it's an interesting point. So, so what do you think? How do you think that steers? How do you think what's the triggers? What are some of the triggers that steer our destiny in terms of whether or not we jump on the bandwagon and build ourselves up like you and I have done? We've seen the light. We've seen that you build. You shut your mind to the negativity. You cast that out. Or alternatively, like so many of us have done, especially when they've had a trauma like a divorce, which I went through myself. It's interesting you share that with B or the audience today, because that is what catalyzed. I'd learned a whole load of things for my business and whatnot with Tony Robbins and John Assaraf from The Secret was another one I got very close to. And then, I was using this for myself. I was using this in my businesses. And when that hit me in 15, so a little after you, after 20 odd years and 4 children, I had 2 choices. You either with it or you get up and fight like a man. And I'll say like a man. And you dig deep and you make choices. What choices did you make? What choices are you seeing that men are making, maybe that you're encouraging in the men that you're coaching now, either in their private lives or in terms of trying to make their business success?
That's a great question. The great motivational speaker, Charlie Tremendous Jones, once said that you'll be the same person in 5 years as you are today, except for 2 things: the books you read and the people you choose to spend time with. Think about that. Yeah. So for myself, I'm a reader. I read a lot. Every year, I use an app called Goodreads.com, and I track my books. Now, they kind of lost my account, so previous years' reading is no longer on there, which is unfortunate. But this year, I'm up to close to 140 books.
Wow.
Right? You learn something from every book. I learn something from every book that I read. And there's a lot of people that say, well, I don't read fiction. That's, there's nothing to learn from fiction. There's nothing that could be further from the truth. Human beings learn through story. Human beings experience life through story, not through lecture, not through frameworks and 3-point plans, but through story. The best books are great stories. And I got to tell you, I read a lot of fiction because fiction, to me, ennobles the soul and teaches timeless lessons to us. So I think you should read nonfiction, but you should also read fiction. So reading is very important in having a curated series of books. And I've read 5,000 books in my lifetime, Nigel. I'm telling you what, if you want to know what's some good books to read, you should come see Nicky Billou. Like this is not a virtual background. This is my office.
Right.
This is my office. This is what it's like to be in my office. And for me, that's important. So inside Sovereign Circle, you would recall when you got onboarded, Larry Cooper would have sent you a syllabus, and that syllabus included 50 odd books. And if you're smart, you'll look at that syllabus and you'll go, there's a couple of titles in here I want to read. You might even go to Larry and go, hey, Larry, you've given me this book list. Which ones do you recommend? And then you might want to go grab those books and read them. The second thing that's important is who you choose to spend your time with.
Yeah.
So Sovereign Circle and eCircle Academy are two curated communities. You may have noticed in Sovereign Circle, we've exited a few men, not because we don't love men, not because we don't want to help men, but if these men are not ready to maintain our standards, they don't belong there.
Yes.
And so there've been 3 men we've exited in the last 6 weeks, and we wish them well. And there's a path back for them if should they want it. But if they're going to come back, they need to be in the group maintaining our standards. And being around people that have high standards is the most rapid way to elevate yourself in life. Where you are in life is in large function of the standards you maintain. Okay, so Nigel, 2.5 years ago, actually almost 3 years ago, come to think of it, 2023, February 2nd, 2023, I was fat. I weighed 227 pounds at 5'11 and a half. Nigel, and I was like around people for whom health and fitness was not a great deal. I was probably health and fitness conscious of them. At that he had where people were into bodybuilding and being on stages. Within 6 months, I dropped 58 pounds.
Right.
I've entered a bodybuilding competition where I placed 3rd at 57. I'm now going for my professional bodybuilding card, be a professional bodybuilder full time, but because I want to be the kind of person that has that kind of level of health and physique. And I'm hanging around a lot of really fit people. So that is my peer group for fitness. So if you are a man and you want to be a better husband, you want to be a better father, you want to be more successful in your business or your career, you want to be less of a doormat, or you want to calm down because you're too aggressive.
Right.
The best way is for you to be around a group of men and learn from them. Embody what you experience. When there's a man in our group, okay, and I was telling you this off camera, and he's, well, bullshitting himself. That's the nicest way to put it, right? You know what I'm saying?
He is.
He's bullshitting himself.
Yeah.
Then he tries to bullshit all of us. Nigel, right? He tries to bullshit all of us. Right. The first time I had you in our group, you called 2 men out who were full of caca. Caca being the technical business term, right? And you were like, hey, dude, not on, not cool. They were like shocked. But did you notice a month later they weren't full of caca anymore? Why?
That's right.
Because
that's right. And one of them is one of them is crushing it now. Crushing it.
But you elevated a standard and you brought it to his face, and he, to his credit, he stepped up to the standard.
Yeah.
So
but most
if
people
you're
don't,
a man, most people don't. But if you want to be successful as a man, as a woman, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as a thought leader, you need books and you need people. That's it.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a defining moment in life, or if there is a defining moment, what do you think is causative in getting somebody to shift? Like the one that I want to focus on something I did in the group, but there was a moment there where we created a moment. Do you think that do you think that is something, for you, the moment was you realized that your life had fallen apart, you took responsibility for it, you didn't take blame for it. I did the same. I dug very deep and I said, hang about a minute, what is it I really wanted? Where did I be? Okay, there's some things I want to do better. But then I didn't dwell. I said, what do I want my life to be? It's changed. Whether I wanted it to or not, and there's things that I didn't want to change. And maybe part of me would still like to have parts of that life back. I'm sure maybe that's true for you. But I don't want to go back to that because I've progressed. I set a standard and I said, this is where I want to be. I want to be up here on a 9 on each of these things. Where am I right now? When I talk to guys, when I coach people, one of the questions I asked them earlier on is, if I gave you a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think you are on that in terms of what you think about yourself, about the things you're achieving in terms of what you want out of life. And sometimes, man, I tell you, some of these numbers are shocking. For me, 7 is average. I tell everybody, look, if you're not sure, 7's average. What do you think you are? The worst I ever experienced was a guy actually from Canada, from up in Montreal. He got on the phone with me one night. We were having a chat like this, and he said a 2. I almost fell off my chair, Nicky. I almost fell off my chair. I said, look, I said, we can get you to a 7. I said, that's the minimum. I said, if you're not living a minimum 8 every day, and I said, we got to aim for 9 and 9.5 or 11, in fact. Shoot for 11. What's 11? 11 is beyond the horizon, over the hill. As my mother would, as Kennedy would have said, a moonshot. You know, or my mother would say, shoot for the stars and you might land on the moon, Nigel. And that's what I've done. That's my motivation. But I ask people, and you know, we do the things where you and I do this. We're in the group that I'm now part of. Where are you? And we ask each other each week, what sort of a week have you had? Where are you? Are you a 6? Are you a 8? Are you a 9? And it's subjective. But at least if you have some sort of measure, and then you're going to build, what is your future state, as I call it? What's your future state life? Let's go down the categories of your personal life, your career aspirations, your job, your financial status, your relationships, your family, and go down and say, where do you want to be with those things, and grade each one of those. It's very, very difficult for us to be on a 9 on every category. And so you've got, because there's a truth in whatever you focus on, you get. And I believe that that's true. And we can't focus on 9 things at once. You know, I joke about having 9 balls in the air at once, but it's tough to do that. Some of them are going to fall on the floor, and you must not beat yourself up, except that, you know, there's a book, I think I've quoted it to you before, The Gap and the Gain. I have an exercise that I do with people, and say, okay, if I set you a target of, you know, whatever it is, we want to lose, say, 20 pounds in weight. Where were you? Did you lose the 20 pounds? No, I only got 10 pounds off. Well, how do you feel about that? Oh, well, I failed. No, you didn't fail. This is where we find out, are you a gap or are you a gainer? If you think that, oh, I missed my target, then you're a gapper, and we've got to work on that. If you're a gainer, now we already know that you're an optimistic, progressive type of person that says, I'm 10% or 10 pounds better off than I was last week. So let's build on that. And it's about building foundations. Tell me about what you think about that from your perspective.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of things you're talking about here today are exercises we do in our main thought leadership event. And my own take on life is, I like to look at what's great in my life, and I also like to aspire to what I want to be better. So if you ask me what's great in my life, well, I'm in terrific health. I'm in terrific physical condition. I give that, a solid 9, maybe even a little higher. I don't know if I'm a 10, but I'm 9.5 perhaps. As a father, when it comes to raising my eldest boy, I think I'm an 11, maybe even a 20, because he's such a stud and such a unicorn. With my youngest son, I'm at least a 9. So as a father, I'm kicking ass. When it comes to helping my clients and caring about people, I'd say I'm a 10. When it comes to caring about the Mint, I'd say I'm a 10. When it comes to growing our community, I'd say I'm an 8. And when it comes to growing my business community, I'd say I'm a 7. So those are areas where there's room for improvement. So I like to look at things primarily from the point of view of what I've done well and where I need to grow. Because if you just sit on your laurels, if I just sit on my laurels, let's say, right, I'm going to stop trying. But if all I can think about and look at is what's not working. Well, that's going to suck because I'm going to stop trying because it looks like everything sucks and nothing's getting any better. My take on life is as a human being alive on this planet, you need to continuously be in the game of taking stock. Right. Like in our business in East Circle Academy, like I told you, on that first day of our 3-day immersion, we make you look at yourself. Mm-hmm. We make you get real with yourself. Mm-hmm. But we also want you to have a future-focused outlook. Mm-hmm. A beautiful future-focused outlook. So, Nigel, you're a successful man. You're a PhD. You're intelligent. And you've got a wonderful business. If, for example, you came to one of our thought leader programs, the first thing I'd have you do is I'd ask you this question. I'd go, Nigel, I know there's a lot that's great in your business, but what isn't where you want it to be? And then Absolutely. I'd shut up and listen, right? I'd shut up and listen. And once you told me what all that was, then I'd go, okay, whatever you said that I wasn't clear on, I'd want to get clarification. I would spend 20 minutes, half an hour, just trying to understand what your aspirations are and what's getting in the way. You know what I mean? Right. And once I've got that clear in my head, then I'm going to make a determination. Is what I do and who I am, is this a net positive for Nigel? If the answer is yes, then I'm going to say, Nigel, I believe that I can help you resolve this. And then I'll review all the conversation we had. I'll take detailed notes and I'll say, do I have this right? Is this what you said? And you're going to go, yeah. And then, or you're going to go, no, add this, take away that, boom. And then once we're clear that all that's right, I'm going to say, okay, Nigel, this is how you resolve it. This is how I can help. And then at the end of it, I'll say, are you ready to resolve it now, today? Mm-hmm. To take action, make that be real for you, that resolution, rather than a someday it'd be nice, blah, blah, blah. And if you were to say, yeah, I'm ready, then boom. Then that means we have a meeting of the minds and we work together. But if you say, I'm not ready, or I don't know, or whatever, if it's anything other than green lights, my next conversation is I'm going to try to determine whether that's coming from fear or whether you're being full of crap and you don't really want to do something about it. If it's coming from fear, I'll walk you past your fear, because I think it's my job, just like it was your job with those men in our group, to walk them past their bullshit and their fear. That bullshit was masking fear for both those men. Bullshit masks fear. Write this down, folks that are listening to this. Bullshit masks fear. If someone's bullshitting you, it's masking fear. If you're bullshitting other people, it's masking fear. Okay? That's the truth, right? There is nothing else to it. But there's some people that, for whatever reason, like to say, I want to do this, but they don't really mean it.
So, part of that is,
they want to look good.
Yeah, of course. Don't we all? Don't we all? We're human. I was going to say that's part of. So your strategy for fashioning a strategy that would lead them to abundance, whether whatever abundance is, whether it's a fulfilled life, speaking from a business perspective, a financially lucrative, growing business. So your core strategy, your core mechanism is that you have this discovery period. That's what you're saying. I think we probably do something similar, but you're using this discovery period where you look through at that person and you say what's going on, what's good, what's bad, and then you ask them to take responsibility. And then the key question is, are you ready to make the change now? And I think what the trigger that you're looking for is, are they committed, or are they, how can I put it, interested? Because a lot of people talk, they want to do this. Oh dear, I think I just lost you on the... Yeah, I don't know if you can still hear me, but I lost your video for a second. A lot of people are committed, are interested, but not necessarily committed. I think I lost you. So I'm going to... And recording. No, I'm not exactly sure what happened there. Maybe I can try and get you back. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but if we can get you back, then that's going to be great. Perfect.
Sorry about that, Nigel. I lost
exactly.
my internet
It's
crash
all
for a
right.
minute.
It's all right. We'll edit that piece out.
All good. Great.
Not a worry. So what I'm saying is that you know, when I say, do you have a strategy that you follow? The strategy that you're following is a self-examination period. What in my world, the way I call it is, I want to explore what your current state is. You know, the current state, and then I want to know what's the future state that you want, and then if we can build that, as I call it, the rope ladder. And what are the unit operations that we need to look at? You can talk talking like an engineer here or a scientist, but then I look at each one of those tasks, and then I build what will be like a punch list for each one of those things. So it sounds like our approaches are similar.
Yes, they're similar.
Do you think there's a mechanism, whether it's a neurological shift or a neuropsychological shift, that a man or anybody, but since we were talking about men, that men have to get to? Because we are thankfully different from women. I know sometimes, you know, in a popular world, people like to think we're all vanilla, that we're all the same, and clearly we're not. And I think part of the problems we have in society is because we expect everybody to be the same. Heavens above, if we ever get there, it would be a horrible place. But certainly, do you think that there's a moment where a man has to get to when they've experienced a trauma? Is there a neurological, psychological shift that they have to experience, like a threshold point that they have to go below before the trigger says, okay, shit, I've got to do something now?
You know, that's a great question, and I'm not sure that I have a good answer for you, but I can tell you this for myself. When I go through adversity, there's a point where that adversity triggers a response inside me to take action. But the process of going through that adversity, and when that'll happen, is not something I can predict, you know, at the beginning. Because yesterday I had a minor piece of adversity, and I'm through it now in a wonderful way. But for about 12 hours, I was like in a funk. I was like pissed and angry, and then I thought, this isn't working on my own. Let me call some of my men. I gotta talk this out with some dudes. So I talked it out with these men, and the final man I talked it out with was ARPA. And ARPA basically just said to me, look, man, you got to just bring yourself to calm and speak calmly and dispassionately with this individual you're having a dispute with. And so he talked me through that. And that's what I did. I spoke calmly and dispassionately with this individual I was having a dispute with. Mm-hmm. And that dispute seemed very big at the time. But by the time I finished saying what I had to say, and I asked the individual to do it my way, essentially, he just said, okay, I agree. And boom, it was gone. So here's what that taught me. A, don't do it alone. Nigel, in business, in life, in trying to be successful, trying to lose weight, to become fitter, don't do it alone. Get expert help. Have good people around you who you can trust. So that's number one. B, and this is very important, if you've got advisors you trust, listen to them. Take their advice. Right? Take their advice. So A, don't do it alone, and B, take the advice. Take the coaching, right? And then C, take action. Take action. And take action.
Massive action. Massive
action. Exactly. Take action from the standpoint of I am ready to move through this and pass this. So for me, the adversity initially was feel bad. And then it was, I've had enough of this shit.
Yeah.
Talk to some people that are good advisors to me. Listen to them, take their advice, take their advice, take their advice, take action, take action, take action. And that whole cycle took all of 18 hours, including like 7 hours of sleep.
Right.
So not bad.
That's pretty short. A lot of people persist for months on end.
Yeah.
And okay, so that's great advice. That's finding the right people is if you like one of the difficult parts of that. I'm sure you'd agree, because
join Sovereign Men if you're a man, right? Join Sovereign Men.
Things I know from personal experience, and one of the things we joke about in one of my webinars is with guys that are trying to rebuild is, look, you're going to get a lot of noise from people that have no experience of what you've gone through. And in my world, lawyers think that they can solve divorces. They can't. They know how to go through a legal process. They're not going to understand the mental side of what you're going through. No. And a lot of therapists, people say to me, how do you coach people that want to recover from divorce? I said, because I've been there. I can taste it. I can feel it. Some therapists, they've never been through a divorce, unless they've been through a divorce. They have no idea other than what they've learned and talking to other people. It's like most things. If you've tasted the pain, then you can empathize with somebody and you can move them. What you've suggested is, yes, that's a commendable strategy, but you know as well as I do, how do you keep the momentum going? How many times do you have people who start off all gusto? They know what to do, even maybe ourselves at times. We sometimes know what to do. We should know better than anybody else because we understand the psychology. We understand the methodology. We know it works. And yet sometimes we don't take our own medicine, or even we do take our own medicine, but grinding that week in, week out, especially when the pressure's on, when maybe everything's not going right, you've still got to keep going. It's like training in the winter for the Olympic Games. You got to do those miles in your legs. How do you keep people in a momentum phase, Nicky, so that they do put the miles in their legs? They do get the endurance. They do continue to get those dopamine shifts, those mini wins, those plus ones to keep going. Because in the middle of winter, as I've shared, it's tough to put the miles in your legs. It's tough to put the tracksuit on when it's -10 outside and to run those miles to get yourself fit enough so that 9 months later, when you go to the Olympic Games, so to speak, whatever your Olympic Games is, you're actually on the track with Usain Bolt competing to win the gold medal. How do you do that? How do you keep the momentum going with guys? Because I know from life that's not an easy thing to do.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a great question. Yesterday, at late afternoon, early evening, my sweetheart and I met with a woman that I met on the plane, who is a very successful, very powerful businesswoman and does some coaching through the process. And this woman is worth millions. Okay. And here's what she said to me. She said to me, I'm a coach and I believe in coaching. I currently have 6 coaches in my life who coach me on different aspects of life. Mm-hmm. So I say this to you because when I need to get good at something and I have on my own, I've not been reliable to reproduce the discipline, mm-hmm. then I join a community and I hire coaches. Mm-hmm. So this fellow that I've been working with since February 2nd, 2023, there's almost 3 years we've been working together. Why? Why do I keep paying him money? Because as a result of working with him, I'm in tremendous physical condition. I'm 58 years old. Okay. And I've got the physiology of a man 20 years younger than myself.
But isn't part of it up here as well, Nicky?
Of course it is. But I have help. I have advisors and I'm in a community. And I said this before, if someone wants to know how do you maintain this ongoingly, well, join a community of peers that call for you to continuously elevate your standards and keep your agreements at a higher and higher level. I said our group, Sovereign Man. If there's a man listening to here and you're struggling with your business, you're not making enough money, you're struggling with your weight, you're struggling with your anger in your relationships, you're struggling with your ability to attract the woman of your dreams, you're struggling with money. Well, don't try to figure it out on your own. You suck at this. You suck at this. Look in the mirror and go, I suck at this. And don't feel bad. Don't blame yourself. Don't go, you're a horrible human being. Everybody sucks at something. Everybody's good at something. That's just the facts.
Right.
If you suck at certain things, then ask yourself this question: am I willing to get better? If the answer is yes, then how do you get better? You learn from people who are better. You don't learn from you. You suck at it. You learn from someone who's better at it than you. Yeah. And in our group, Nigel, those two men on that day, your first meeting, well, they suck at being honest with themselves. Would you agree on that day? They sucked at being honest with themselves. That was not a skill set they had. Nigel, would you say in the last 2 months, they're both better at being honest with themselves?
I think so. And one of them is crushing it with his business. So I think that's great.
So think about that, Nigel. Do you think if he had not been in our group and had that moment with you, what was predictable? What was predictable? He's continued to suck at being honest with himself. And a man who sucks at being honest with himself is going to make less money, is going to piss off his wife more. If he's single, he's going to have a harder time attracting good women to his life. If he's overweight, he's going to continue to be overweight, or maybe even become more overweight. It's that simple. We talked about this a few minutes ago. Who you're going to be in 5 years is the same person you are today, except for the books you read and the people you spend time with. You must make a conscious decision to spend time with people who have elevated standards in the areas you lack such standards and you want improvement.
Putting it another way, success leaves crumbs. It leaves, it's like a paper trail, isn't it? Yeah, and you follow. You and I maybe the exception to the rule. People say, well, you're doing this, Nigel, you're doing that. And I say, yeah, and I have about 4 coaches. I have about 4 different sets of people that I'm working with at any one time for the same reasons, One of the things that's been a tragedy for me over the last 3 years or so is, I discovered that I had damage to my spine, which are just something that was a symptom from a 20-year car accident that I had years ago. And because I'd been so active, the issues I had were not manifesting themselves other than a little bit of numbness in my toes. And because of COVID, we couldn't, and I'm a martial artist. I do Taekwondo. I'm a three-line black belt in Taekwondo. I was part of the way to getting my 4th Dan, which is a master. And that was a goal. I still have it as a goal. In fact, I wrote my master this week and I said, who's a 5 Dan? And I said, I still want to come. I've been trying to get strong enough to be able to practice. But the wonderful part about that was I've often said to a lot of people that were overweight or out of condition, I've done absolutely everything in life in terms of different sports and whatnot. But this has been the best thing from a health perspective than I ever done in my life. But it also taught me patience. I'm not a patient person with things that shouldn't take time. I've got all the patience in the world if you give me your attention and you try. And we all make mistakes. That's not a problem. But when I don't do stupid, I don't think a lot of us do stupid. But what I mean by that is if you're careless and you keep making you don't learn from any of the mistakes, then you're stupid in my mind. And it's like, you're not helping and you're just sucking the life out of me. You become a psychic vampire. And I don't do psychic vampires, I believe the mental side of that side of exercise or taking care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. This idea is very, very powerful, and I like you're discovering, like you've shared with us this morning, which I'm grateful for. Is you're advocating to men. I'm sure. Look, if from an adversarial position, if you've got to focus your mind in a very powerful way. That takes time, that takes energy, and you need to have a physical regimen that's going to enable you to be able to manage and match that mental energy requirement. And so you really need to not just think, oh, well, I need to read books, I need to read about men, but I also need to get myself in great physical shape as well. And I need to learn how to calm myself and how to get peace, how to be silent. I think that's a very important part of life today, is to be quiet and listen to what's going on in here, and to learn to guard the crap that's coming in. Because as you know, once you get in your own head, it's like stabbing yourself with a carving knife. You're just going to bleed, and you're going to bleed, and it's going to be a slow bleed until the end.
It is beautifully put. Beautifully put. And I'll say this as a way for us to wrap up this conversation.
Yeah.
There have been a ton of men that have come into our work. The man who produces my podcast, when he came to us, was on the verge of bankruptcy, on the verge of losing everything he had.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's making well into six figures in income. And he has a wonderful problem called too much work, too much business.
If you had by way of because we are coming to the end of our time for today anyway.
Yes.
If there was one thing that if you could look back now in a time, or go back in a time machine and meet yourself when you were 20, what's one thing you would tell yourself from your experience today at 50s?
I would get myself to read certain books sooner, and I would tell myself to go and deliberately seek associations with really good men, to learn specific things from them that would shorten the journey to success considerably.
That's great. That's great advice. That's great advice. Simple, but as you know, simplicity is magical. And I think that in life, we tend to complicate things or overcomplicate things. Yeah. I think if we can seek out simplicity, then we're going to be in a much better place. At times, we just don't we don't want to hear. We think, no, that's too simple. It's got to be more complex. No, it's not. Much of the time. Nicky, where can the audience find you, please?
Look, the best thing you can do is, let's have a conversation. Jump on a calendar with me. I'm old fashioned. I believe in live conversations. So I've got a calendar link to book time with me, and it's ecircleacademy.com/appointment. That's the letter E, the word circle, the word academy.com, all one word, /appointment, and book a time. It's free. I don't charge for it. Let's have a conversation.
That's fantastic. We will certainly make sure that gets put with the information when this podcast goes out. So hopefully all of you out there, or some of you out there that need help, will jump on a call with Nicky. That's the whole idea behind doing these, is that we raise men up, we raise people up all together, not just men, but we want to raise people up. We want to seek and be around the people that are raising us up at a time when there's too much of this. No, we can't do this. No, we can't do that. And we all know at the moment, with AI coming into our lives, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of panic, there's a lot of depression. So I think it's time to get around people. I think it's time to get around the Nicky Billous of the world. So please, I'm grateful for you coming on my podcast today. Thank you so much. You do me a great service. I'm full of gratitude. And hopefully we can do more things like this going on in the future. But today, your words have been magical, and I'm sure there's great value that the audience are going to get out of that from today. So all the best, my friend. I hope to see you really soon. And thank you again for making such a great contribution today to our podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Nigel. You're awesome, man. Great conversation. A lot of good information got shared. God bless you, brother.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.